So today is Waco Day, and I got a lot of fun reactions and quote tweets on Twitter for even bringing it up. That mentioning what happened in Waco, or even mentioning what happened in Ruby Ridge for that matter, is a far right dog whistle. And this really hits on a really fucking important thing that a lot of people overlook. That when horrific and horrible things happen that are wrong and are provably wrong and they are committed by the government, if these issues are not addressed by more mainstream elements, then only the fringe addresses them. And ironically enough, by refusing to talk about situations like Waco and like Ruby Ridge, you actually cause those issues to become epicenters for extremism, for racism. And the same thing goes on the other side of conservatives refusing to address the problem with policing in America. They don't realize that we live with our and see with our own two eyes shit that is wrong, and only one group is addressing it, and only one group is trying to do something about it. So if you're an individual and you see something obviously fucked up happen, and you want to do something about it, and you go to your normie friends and they don't care, and you go to the politically active groups and they call you an extremist or that you can't talk about these issues or you need to go away, then you end up revolving around camps of people that are dubious in many different ways because they're the only ones that are talking about it. This is the same shit that I talked about with the lockdowns. That you want an anti-lockdown protester like me at anti-lockdown protests because there are problems going on. There are people fucked over. There are hurt and abandoned people by the government. And if regular people do not go out and talk to them and try to address their grievances and solve their problems, they end up only being helped by fucked up people. The type of people at the lockdown protests that are apolitical and all they are is surrounded by like extreme MAGA people and even like far right people, those are the people reaching out to them. And then they try to reach out to the left and they get stomped on for it. And again, exact same on the police brutality side, to where you have people that have been fucked over by the cops and they try to reach out to like more conservative people and they tell them that it's a lie or you should have just followed the law or the cops would never, make shit up or they would never plant anything. They never do any of this stuff. Just put it away. And then they end up around more and more fringe elements. Leaving a problem unsolved, leaving a problem unaddressed causes this. And when it comes to the Waco and when it comes to the Ruby Ridge thing, people don't understand that this is all one narrative snowballing. If you look at the average no-knock raid that goes on today in America, go back and look at how the ATF were dressed and equipped and armed when they hit Waco. And then go look at the average no-knock raid. See any similarities? And then you can go back even further to where a lot of the first instances of no-knock raids happened in the inner cities. So now white people are getting no-knock raided, conservatives, gun owners, and stuff like that. And they're like, wow, where did all this come from? When it's been happening to like the black community and the inner city community for years. Because the government doesn't fucking segregate this like we do. They don't separate these like we do. They expand power and they take out threats. So you can say, oh, David Koresh and the Branch Davidians and fucking the Weavers and everything. Oh, they were just on the fringes. That's why that happened to them. That'll never happen to my side. We're different. We do something different. The government doesn't the government doesn't make a toy or make a weapon and then use it once and put it back in a box. They will always continue to expand and use these on more and more people. And that's what I try to tell the conservatives when I say, if you look at what's going on in the inner city, you look at what's going on and what BLM protests and what they're upset about, that's going to come to your neighborhoods eventually. In the same way that the same ATF and FBI and Fed tactics came out of a lot of targeting of the groups like Weather Underground, a lot of targeting of, the original civil rights movement, that then moved on to right-wing people and religious groups. And then that moved back into the inner cities on the during the drug war and all of that shit. This snowballs. And so many people in particular get really pissed off at me when I try to connect these two issues. And they say like, oh, it comes across as really all lives matter and they're actually two totally different things. They're either willingly or unintentionally participating in this segregation shit that helps the government like get away with this more and more, because there will always be a group or an individual or something that is considered a threat in the society, that they can convince the normies it's okay to crack down upon them. We saw the same shit with the federal police being deputized, and local police being deputized by the DHS to arrest Antifa protesters. And I told the fucking conservatives, I told them, don't cheer this on because it's coming after you next. And sure enough, they started getting grabbed for the Capitol thing. And I told the liberals, don't cheer the FBI hunting down people for even being in DC because it's coming for you next. And then the Fed started grabbing BLM activists for inciting riots that never happened. Because this is how it goes. These issues, they have different causes, but they are the same thing. It is not some all lives matter shit to point this out, because the whole idea of the all lives matter shit is a negation of the problem to make it seem like it's a universal issue. This isn't a universal issue in that way. What it is that the government will find any excuse to do this. The government can hate Christians and be racist at the same time. The government can hate armed individuals and go after communists at the same time. They don't view us as different. They will come down upon all of us for this shit. So that's why I get really upset when even mentioning that the ATF burning women and children alive in fucking Waco is a problem is considered a fascist right-wing dog whistle. When we put Vicky Weaver and Sammy Weaver, a 14-year-old boy and an unpolitical woman who were killed by the fucking FBI and the ATF on our flag, they say, oh, that's fascist right-wing signaling. Do you support innocent people getting killed by the police being burned alive by federal agents? No. And that's why I'll address both of these issues. And I will address not only what's going on with the police and the things BLM are upset about, but also address things like Ruby Ridge, like Waco, like the targeting of militia movements. Because this never stops with one group. Once the government does it to one person, they're going to start doing it to everybody. And they're going to continue to expand it. The Department of Education has a fucking SWAT team. Like, this militarization and this police state thing is not exclusive. And if you take the partisan lens out of it, and you automatically assume that any group that the federal government has gone after, you've been lied to about, things start to make a lot more fucking sense.